This is the NFL Rundown. I'm Jay Lawrence. He's Brian Smith. But Brian, before you say a word, listen to this. Because is the Super Bowl coming to London?
And we've always traditionally tried to play the Super Bowl in an NFL city. That was always a sort of a reward for the cities that have NFL franchises. But things change. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that happens one day.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell there talking about a fan event at Tottenham Hotspur. Brian, I'll just ask you bluntly, is a Super Bowl coming to London?
I hope so, because I already have my ticket, right? I already have a ticket to see the Super Bowl in London because it is going to happen eventually. I said this on White and Jordan, and I believe this as much as anything I've ever believed in my entire life. The sky is blue, the grass is green, and one day the NFL will play an international Super Bowl, and it will be in London as long as Wembley is standing, and there's no way it's not. It will be at Wembley Stadium. I don't see how this doesn't happen, Jay. They've been building toward this for more than a decade. We can get into all this on this program. There's so much to get into, but you want to talk about the international series and playing multiple games in London and Germany and going to Spain and Ireland and all these things. If you're going to do all that, how do you not have a Super Bowl in London? It is the world's great international city. It can host anything in the world. The Super Bowl is America's version of the Euros and the Olympics and the World Cup. And the NFL has already peaked when it comes to American expansion, just because the NFL can't get any bigger in America, right? I was over there for most of my adult life. The NFL, just like the Premier League in the UK, dominates everything. So the only way the NFL can truly continue to expand is on an international level. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's what you say, when, because it has to be said that Goodell, he sat on the fence to a certain extent before people get in the comments and say, well, it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Or I hate it, or...
We were very aware that it's not going to happen anytime soon. And he does say, that the history is that they tend to have, well, they always have had NFL Super Bowls in places where they've had an NFL team. And
basically, the whole
this is likely not going to be the case. That wouldn't be the case.
You spend $2, $3, $4 billion on a new stadium, and we'll give you a Super Bowl 5 years later. But I'm curious, how soon is soon to you? Because soon to me, on one level, would mean in a couple years. Well, we know that's not happening because it's New Orleans, it's San Francisco, it's Los Angeles. Those are already awarded. But soon to me is 7 years, 5 years, 10 years. I believe it happens by then.
You genuinely believe, Brian, that there's going to be a Super Bowl in the UK within a decade?
I do. Why not? They've only awarded the next 3. Why can they not do that? They've shown that they can host 3 games here. It's not like America's going to revolt again just because you give up a Super Bowl. Fans love coming over here. They turn it into it's a holiday for them. I know Americans don't understand the term holiday, but once you start living over here, that's all anyone talks about. It is a holiday for them. It doesn't even matter. You could have the Detroit Lions, Dallas Cowboys obviously won't be in it. You could have the Kansas City Chiefs, the Jacksonville Jaguars in 7 years. Jacksonville Jaguars playing a Super Bowl in London. But no, in all seriousness, what is preventing them from doing it? They already understand the international market. They're going to keep expanding. Why would they not be able to do a Super Bowl in 7 years? That's what I don't understand.
Well, I feel like we're sort of switching places here a little bit because me, as the person that has grown up in the UK all my life, I'm the one that's disagreeing with you, the American, who I'm surprised that you say that there's going to be a Super Bowl within that space of time. I could not agree.
Why not?
Less.
Why not?
I could not agree less because I don't think that we're at the stage where we can have what is one of the biggest sports events in the world regularly, every single year, the most watched event, television event in the US, in the UK. Now, we're talking for multiple reasons.
Why not?
Because we're talking logistically, right? It would mean that you would have to change the time of the Super Bowl to much earlier.
They're pretty good about time zones nowadays in 2024. You can have the Olympics in London. You can have the Euros.
But you're used to that. You're used to that. What you're saying right now is that an event that has always been at a very similar time throughout its whole history.
People can adapt. It's 2024.
You would have to change that completely and make it way earlier just to be able to have it in the UK. You're going to then basically restrict
but it's a global game.
Pretending. It is a global game.
It's a global game. And so, yeah, I mean, okay, let's be factual. you can't really have the Super Bowl New York time at 6 a.m. That's probably not going to work. But I would believe in 2024, post-pandemic, in this 24/7, 365 streaming age, that the NFL can figure, the NFL, which is the greatest steamroller in sports history, can figure out how to make time zones work. I think we can do that. I'll do some quick math. So if you had the Super Bowl at 7 p.m. London time, that would be 1 p.m. New York time, noon if you're in New Orleans, 10 a.m. if you're on the West Coast.
10 a.m. It has to be a 10 a.m. Super Bowl.
They'll survive. Or have it at 8 p.m., have it at 11. You can do that. There's no reason you can't do that. And it all comes down to money. And this is what I love going back with Simon and Jordan about this, about the NFL. The NFL has figured out better than any sports corporation it is a corporation, how to make money. They print money. They can shrug off concussions and injuries and lawsuits and all. They can make all that. They brush it off. They make it all go away because they understand how to grow this game. They took over Major League Baseball. They took over the NBA. They are the force in America. It's gotten so bad, and I mean this in a good way, in America, that major networks have to show NFL games because nobody else will watch real TV anymore. It's all streaming now. So the NFL will figure all of this out. And yeah, I believe in the next decade, there will be an international Super Bowl.
I think it'll be very interesting, actually. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now and you are from, let's say, California, for example, and you might have to have a 10 a.m. Super Bowl, I would love to know in the comments.
Drop in the comments.
How you would feel about that. Because I, as the British person, am thinking, I don't know how people are going to feel about that. And just really quickly, just to make it onto soccer, right? It is the equivalent of having the Champions League final over in the US, okay? And I don't think, or the World Cup final potentially, that doesn't make as much sense.
Wait, the World Cup is in America in 2026.
We'll take that back.
No, don't edit that. Don't edit that.
It's the equivalent of a Champions League final, this European event, having that over in the US, and I don't think that would go down very well. And do you know what? I'm not saying that there's never going to be a Super Bowl, an international Super Bowl, but I think we're way away from the US.
When do you think it happens?
Because
I'm going to be, well, I'm 30 years old right now, but in about 30 years, I'm going to go back into the YouTube archives, if the world still exists, and find this program and see who was right. When do you think it happens?
I would be surprised if it's within the next 15, 20 years.
Wow.
I really would. I think we're
a
while away.
You're so cynical.
Hey, I want to be very clear. Would I embrace it? 100%. But at the same time, I just don't think it's necessarily the most likely thing to happen right now. I feel like I am the doubter maybe out of this. I wasn't coming into this thinking that you were going to say it within the next 5 years.
It is such an international sports world now, post-pandemic, and we have seen this with Formula One. We have seen this with Premier League, that it is, the oceans still exist, but in terms of sports, they cross continents now. And I feel like if you're an American fan, you're so into Formula One, you're so into Premier League, you're used to all these weird times now. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of people in America who are on their keyboards, who are freaking out. But you know what? Wembley Stadium would be absolutely sold out. The international exposure, the excitement, just the advertisements, the commercials, the branding, the sponsorship, all those things. The first global international Super Bowl, the NFL wants to do that. It's only a matter of when.
Well, he can pitch it quite well, can't he, this guy? I think he's done quite a good job at pitching it. Do you think that, you mentioned Formula One there, actually, and Formula One is a really great explanation for what the NFL is going to be trying to do over the next few years, in the sense of trying to have all of these games all around the world. And, you know, we'll touch upon the places that maybe we think that they will go to, more than what we'd like to, because we did that a couple of weeks ago, what we think that where they will go. But, you know, in regards to Formula One, can you see like the NFL going to, let's say, like the Middle East?
Yeah, I could see the NFL going to Abu Dhabi, which is turned into one of the premier areas in the world, whether you love it or don't like it, because there obviously people are very divided about that. But it's one of the premier areas in the world now to host major international sporting events. So this is how I often look at it. If the NBA can do it, and it's okay with the NBA, why would it not be okay with the NFL? It's not like the NFL has some, has higher morals than everybody else. The NFL follows the dollars. If Formula One can do it, why wouldn't the NFL? So you look, you could have a game in the Middle East. That might sound crazy to some Americans.
There's been some talk about that, though, hasn't there, recently?
There has been, but that was reported by CBS. It wasn't immediately shot down. I mean, this is where the NFL is going, right? You already have America conquered. So you get into the United Kingdom, which they have been doing, and that's kind of your bridge. That's kind of the bridge to go into the other part of the world. You're talking about maybe Paris, France, Madrid, Spain, Dublin, Ireland, Abu Dhabi, Germany. You know, they're playing games in Germany. You had Patrick Mahomes in Germany last year, but ultimately, Jay, it's about that 18th game, right? For the longest time, when I was growing up, you knew one thing in the world in the NFL. The NFL played 16 games. That was it. They're at 17 games now. They've never really liked that, except they're making more money. They want an 18th game. So I guarantee you a couple things. The NFL will play an international Super Bowl at some point in the relatively near future. But most importantly, they will have an 18th game. And once they go to that 18th game, I believe that the plan is, and I've heard this from people I talk to around the NFL, that they want it to be an international game. And so that gives you 16 international games. You have 32 teams. You do the math. Every team would play a home or an away game, and you just flip-flop every year. And that's where they want to go because they've tapped out the American market and they want to just expand globally. That's where the new source of revenue is in the streaming age, and that's where they're going to try to get to.
Do you think it's kind of... Do you think it's going to be okay with NFL fans in the US, though? Because, you know, I know you're saying flip-flopping home and away, but essentially that means that they're losing a home game.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say they've already been doing that, right? It'd be different if we were sitting here and the NFL had never been out of the United States of America and it was like, oh my gosh, they're about to expand and this is really risky. It's been working so well. You go out to Tottenham, you go out to Wembley, the fans are out there, the energy is incredible. I'm still blown away by when I went out to Tottenham last year and seeing the Bills Mafia. You heard all the stories about the Vikings fans. You're going to have the Jags and the Patriots this week at Wembley. They can pack 3 games. People will travel. They will turn it into their holiday. I think where it gets really interesting is if you have an 18th game, and so you have 16 international games. Every team's doing home or away every year. Does that keep going? Like, is it because you have to start build? It's fun to have your fans travel one time. Is it going to work if you're continually playing in Dublin, Ireland, Madrid, Spain, Abu Dhabi? You can't go and all of a sudden have 20,000 people in a stadium. That doesn't work. So the NFL has been slowly dripping this over, building this, kind of planting all the seeds. The NFL would not be doing this if they did not believe it wouldn't work and make them more money.
Well, you know what? Actually, it's interesting that you speak about, you know, the locations, and they are looking. They do these feasibility studies, right? I mean, I spoke to NFL UK and Ireland general manager Henry Hodgson. He's been very vocal about they've been doing these feasibility studies, trying to work out where, you know, around the world it would work. One place you mentioned there, Dublin, Ireland, looks like it's very likely that that's going to be happening over the next, couple years or so. Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, even said so himself. Dublin, Ireland, Paris, France, looks like it's going to be happening. They've been very vocal about Australia. Why mention Australia if you're not genuinely considering
they'd love to go there.
You know, and that opens up a whole entire new region. They're opening up an NFL academy over in Australia in the Gold Coast as well.
You go over there. You can go to the Far East. You can go anywhere.
So these places they are looking at, and I think we're at the precipice now. You know, we're in 2024, where next year there's going to be more international games in places that we have not had confirmed yet. The year after there'll be more as well, I would imagine. In 10 years' time, the NFL is going to look very different for an international fan. We're at that point now where in 10 years it will look extremely different. And, you know, 10 years ago, I don't think we could imagine what it's been like now, to be honest with you.